Another problem I have with the locations is they somewhat lack the lived in feel. There's no like just general citizens or people there that are just getting on with their lives. Everything's abandoned and old, which I do like, but mix that in with something, living and breathing. I'd say maybe Bogano's quite good because you've got the creatures and stuff like that, but there's no like civilization type areas, if you get what I mean. And every sort of creature you come across in these locations wants to kill you. There's nothing that is just like existing outside your story, if you get what I mean. And I wish some places had that. And speaking of stuff trying to kill you, I have to say, the creature design and enemy design in this game is amazing. They've done such a good job, and I think they put a lot of focus into this, and it's really paid off. Games are really annoying when the enemies aren't varied. Look at games like Marvel's Avengers that came out like a year ago, or whatever that were. The enemies in that game are so boring because they're all the same. This does such a good job of doing different creatures for different planets. They completely feel like they belong there. You couldn't pull something from another planet and put it somewhere else. And I love the variety they put with that. But also the Imperial Troopers, they're using a lot of classic ones, which I like, because, you want to fight them and whatever. But they've also brought in new ones, they haven't been lazy and just like cut corners where they can. They bring in the Purge Troopers, which are a great idea and really fit the story. But yeah, honestly, really happy with the designs of the creatures, and hopefully when the sequel comes out, we get these creatures again, but also we get a lot of new ones, because it really does make fights feel unique, and you have to approach them in many different ways. A technique that works on one enemy won't work for another, and I really like that. It makes gameplay feel really creative, and it makes it feel not repetitive. And onto sort of the major boss battles of this game. We've got sort of the sad boss battles where it's like just a steadied up version of a normal animal. They're pretty like one note. You can pretty much apply them the same way you'd fight the normal creature, but you just get hit more by them. It hurts more. But I like their inclusion and I won't take them out, but they don't really stand out as anything super interesting and they somewhat feel last minute. Also, they've got a few boss battles where it's just like a normal enemy that you're fighting for the first time, and then they just do it as a boss battle for like a proper boss battle setting, which I don't really get, but like I don't have a problem with it. I just find it a bit odd. Now onto the actual boss battles. First, I'll speak about Golgara, which is like a creature, but it isn't like the other creature battles. This is specifically designed as a boss battle. It's not something you can find in the world. And I quite like this boss battle. It's very unique to the other ones because you're fighting something that isn't like a humanoid, and it's like this giant creature. And it's this owl bat thing, and I'd say the only part that's a bit meh is the final part where you're like landing on it and stuff like that. There's not much interaction from the actual player. It's more sort of a glorified cutscene where you just sort of move Cal about. I wish there was more interaction there with you free falling and fighting in midair, because it could have been really cool. But the rest of the boss battle's great. You've also got Nam's sister as well, which is like the big brutish inquisitor. And she matches that sort of tone where she is like very strong and slow attacks. I personally found her quite easy, and I maybe wish she was more of a challenge, because she is so slow and I think it's easy to calculate her moves before she's actually doing them. Whereas if the next bosses I'm going to mention are a lot harder because they're a lot quicker and a bit more random in the moveset, which is Taron Malikos is the next boss I want to talk about. And I quite liked his fight. He, like all the sort of fights, they mix in new moves as it goes along, but his feel the most random, if you get what I mean, and hard to deal with. You don't really see him coming a lot of the time, and I quite like that. It keeps the player on the toes. We've also got the second sister as the final boss fight. This one's by far the hardest. It stands in spades above the rest of them, but it is a really fun fight. I think overall though, my main problem with the boss battles is I wish the environment developed as you're fighting them, and I know some people could say that's distracting or whatever when you're doing it, and I'm not saying it should be like that for all boss fights, but some variation as you're moving along. Like imagine you were fighting Trilla and you were moving along the Inquisitorium station, you get what I mean, instead of just being in that sort of one room. That could have been more interesting, like visually to me, but it didn't need that. It's just an idea. And I think stims sort of have an impact on difficulty, how many you have, because I remember the first time I played the game, I think I was playing on Jedi Master, and I completed the game on 4 stims, and the game was considerably harder than when I played it on subsequent playthroughs, where, I remember I did one playthrough and I got 10 stims before I got all of them before I was going to fight Triller, and that boss fight's much easier. So I guess it depends on that, and you sort of make your own difficulty. I do definitely want to play on Grandmaster and see how much stims help there. And speaking of that Triller fight, she dies at the end by Darth Vader, and I guess you could call it a fight, whatever you have with him. It more turns into a horror game of you escaping, which I do really like, because it would have been dumb if you were going up against Darth Vader, who's meant to be leagues ahead of who you've been fighting. So I really liked how it took that approach, and hopefully you maybe fight Vader more in properly in a sequel. Like, there could be a few Jedi working against him, and you could be one of them. That could be super interesting. I guess we'll see. Now, customization in the game is a real mixed bag, because when you look at the lightsaber customization, I really enjoy that, because there's a lot of detail into that, and you can mix and match and unlock different colours, materials, pieces. And it's really good because it helps you really personalise your lightsaber, even if it is just a small thing your character wields. You can definitely see change with it. But everything else is kind of meh, and it's a bit disappointing. Your outfit is pretty much limited to choosing your colour and a poncho, which I think is a bit of a shame. You know, there's not like unique outfits you can unlock or anything like that, or mix and match parts where you like choose your boots or your pants and your gloves or whatever. You get what I mean? There's not that much customization there, especially correlating against your lightsaber customization. They did release the Inquisitor outfit, but you know, that's like one thing. And this idea of it just being very simple applies to your BD1 customization, which that's fine, and your Mantis and all that. And I do wish it could have had more, and I think with it all being in these chests around the world is a bit of a outdated idea. And I think it had been good for some of the customization stuff to be in these chests that are located around the world, but it all is. And it feels like a gameplay feature that's from like 10 years ago. You know, it feels somewhat outdated, and I loved a more modern way of unlocking outfits and pieces like that. There's various ways you could have done it, and it's a real shame that the customization and personalization to you as an individual player is very limiting, especially when the rest of the game is so good. But I have to say, I'll take that over any sort of stupid ranked armor system where you get like purple hat or, like legendary chestplate, all like that, where it has stats and stuff. It'd have been a bore. I hate story-driven games and games like that where they're driven by just a number, your power or whatever. The skill of a game should be in your ability growing as a player and you unlocking new abilities and just getting better at the overall game. It shouldn't rely on an artificial number, if you get what I mean. I'm really glad this game doesn't, and I really hope it doesn't go in the direction of having like loot and stuff like that. I think that would really ruin the game for me, so I'm super glad it hasn't done that. But I think my biggest issue with this game is the story is all there is to it. Once you've completed the story, there's not much else to do. There's not really side quests at all, and that's a real shame, man. I'm not talking rubbish where it's like collect someone's watch or something stupid like that. Proper like mini story side quests that could have been really interesting and really helped out flesh out the locations and just the world and time period of Fallen Order. And I think it's a real shame because there's not much replayability value there other than like a few months later when you feel like replaying the story, I guess. And that's a real shame with games. I look for stuff where there's a lot to do in terms of, exciting stuff, not like running around collecting stuff. I mean, engaging quality content. And this feels very small because it is just the story. And what we've got is great quality, but I wish there was more of it, if you get what I mean. The soundtrack for this game as well is really great. It uses a lot of original pieces, which I think is super hard with Star Wars because you've got to nail that Star Wars feel, but it does a great job and every piece fits really well and adds great ambience to the scenes and settings, and even when you just sort of roam in the world. It does bring back a few pieces, at key moments like Order 66 and Anakin's Dark Deeds. And that's really great when it does, because it doesn't just bring them in for the sake of nostalgia. It really fits the moment and adds to the situation. It is used appropriately and doesn't overstay its welcome of just pulling off the old music. It sticks to its guns with its own stuff, which I really do like. So I have to say, overall, this game's a really pleasant surprise, and it's a great single-player Star Wars experience if you're looking for one. Just my major issue is the lack of content there, because it is just a story and that's it. There's nothing else there really, which is a real shame. And this very much does feel like somewhat of a test if people would get this game. And, it seems like it's had overall praise, so it seems like we're going to be getting a sequel, which I hope really expands on this idea. And, they put more in it now, move past this test stage. People do want to see this stuff, so really give it a good go now. But yeah, I have to say overall, I think this game's probably about an 8 out of 10. I do really enjoy it, and it really did scratch an itch of a quality Star Wars single player game. So yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya.